a way to start her up, and that says more about you than it says about me.
But we started it up, so we're good now.
All right, you finally figured out where that button was to
Yeah,
start her up.
yeah, I did. Um,
Okay,
yeah,
that's
the
good.
track
Did you
the
double click it?
trackpad's too big.
Oh, that's what it is. It's not the finger that's too small.
No, 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 no.
So,
um,
yeah, that's how we're starting this one. Awesome.
yeah, we're gonna see if the third member of our team will join us, and he might. We don't know.
It depends on whether or not he can escape the ropes that Harley Quinn Smith tied him to the bed with or not.
That's a fair point. It
Yeah.
has been a while, I guess.
Yep.
But we figure while we're waiting, or and maybe we'll be waiting the entire episode. Who knows? But we haven't talked Phillies in a little while, so let's dive in because they've been really tearing it up here, especially since post All-Star break.
Yeah. And they traded the catcher of the future, or so I thought he was, um, Mr. Logan O'Hop, and brought in some defensive help, and brought in Thor himself, Noah Syndergaard. Um, and then, of course, they were doing really well. Brandon Marsh was manning center field, and it was a huge defensive upgrade. It even was providing a little bit of pop. And then the third inning today, he tried to catch a home run ball and destroyed his leg, apparently.
Yeah, that's an unfortunate one. So they won tonight, and we're recording. This will probably be released about a week out, but it's recording on August 16th. They beat the Reds 11-4, and they just been really on fire and really hitting some long balls and stuff. I think what Hoskins hit a couple tonight.
Yep.
But yeah, it's unfortunate. So they basically swapped out center fielders. They swapped Mickey Moniak, essentially, and end up with Brandon Marsh with the Angels through a series of a couple different trades. And I think it was more, to me, it was like a change of scenery type thing.
Right.
Even though it's early on in both respective careers. I really don't think that there was much left to give for Moniak's time in Philly. If you looked at his MLB track record, which was broken up, but over 162 games with the Phils, it was not good at all. And it was unfortunately dinged by injuries and some different things. So, look, I would have loved to have kept him and given him some, obviously a fair shot, but I think it was time to move on from that experiment, and hopefully he does do well, moving forward. But you already mentioned it though, is you've talked about it before, the Logan O'Hop deal. What was your initial take on trading him?
I was pissed. I was pissed. That was my boy. I had him tabbed as the catcher of the future. Um, but honestly, I mean, the way I look at it is this: it was brought up by one Matthew Barney. We weren't going to get a lot in return for Remuto.
Mm-mm.
At the time, he wasn't. He was having his worst offensive season since his rookie year. He's owed a ton of money. He's on the wrong side of the hourglass there, and so we were going to have to retain a lot, and we probably weren't going to get much in return to get rid of him. So this was really the smart move, aside from if there was another catching prospect that we could have traded. And I can't remember his name, but he's further along. So you know what? At the end of the day, what they did works, and so screw it. Let's go.
Yeah, they were able to improve needs that they had now. And look, and JT's picked it up offensively quite substantially here too. So that's
Yeah.
worked out well. I think the problem with him is going to be more moving forward. The back end of that contract is when you're going to need a catcher. Luckily, there's a DH in the National League now, so he can spot some time there. And I think I'd imagine he'll play some first base. I think moving forward, what's going to end up happening is Rhys Hoskins is no longer going to be a Philly. Unfortunately, I don't think that he's going to be in for the long haul. That's just my take going down the road. I think I just don't see them maintaining his contract on top of everyone else's, because I'm not going to say he's going to demand or command a ton of money, but I just don't think it's going to be where they're going to need it. So unless he takes a discount, he's going to make money elsewhere, and that'll open up first base for the last couple of years of JT, or whoever else. That's just my guess. I could be wrong, but that's when it would bring in like the next catcher, if you will. Um,
Right.
because like you said it, we both said this before on here. I don't think that regardless of where he's at now, I'm not saying the Phillies overpaid, but they're never going to get anything back that's anywhere near worth that contract at this point. So, and there's still 4 more years on it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the thing. And what sucks is, you run the risk of losing a piece like Reese Hoskins, where he's a good player. He's definitely, you're getting more bang for your buck with him at first base than you will with Realmuto, because Realmuto still, you got to look at how he was paid, and the situation that he was in when he got paid was as the best catcher in baseball. So they paid a premium for the best catcher in baseball. Now you throw that the best that contract for the best catcher in baseball and put him and his production at first base, and you're overpaying for a first baseman, and it's underproducing because of the numbers that premium first basemen are typically expected to produce.
yeah, you're expecting the 250, 260, 40 home run guys. He won't ever do that. My thing is, I just don't know that they eat that at the end. They
Right.
might. Who knows? I can't see them paying him $20+ million a year to sit on the bench.
Right. Well, no, and that's the thing, and I'm not shooting your idea down, because I absolutely think that that's where it's headed. I think that's without a doubt, because you're not going to have him. You've got too many players on this team that fit the DH mold, that are going to produce DH, like actual real DH numbers, to put him there, and they can't play the field, or they can, but you're still getting diminished defense by
Right,
having the
right.
field.
I think the thing with him is I think he would be a good spot DH. From time to time, if he can consistently hit. That's going to be the question moving forward. I think the first half of this season kind of proved that there's some big question marks going forward. So,
Yeah.
but look, we're talking future now. I mean, the way they're playing now, really kicking it. And supposedly Bryce is going to start a rehab assignment next week. So
Yes.
now think about this team where they're at now and slot him back in.
And what did he take? What did he take? 60 swings today, I think.
Something like that. Yeah, I know he just started BP a day or two ago. So
Right. So, and honestly, right now we're looking at, so if we're looking at the Phillies and where they're sitting, you've got the Phillies right now are in the second wild card position. They're a game and a half ahead of San Diego. No. All right. How does that work? So it's showing San Diego at 0.
what
So
the wild card standings? Yeah, I think that means that they currently have the wild card spot. I'm pulling it up right now. Yeah, because I know they're a bit odd to look at. So right now it shows So right now, if the playoffs were to start today, the three wild card teams for the National League would be Atlanta, Philadelphia, and San Diego. San Diego being the final one. As I'm looking at the standings now, I don't know
right.
that they've been updated. But uh, basically the Padres are a game and a half ahead of Milwaukee, meaning that the Phillies are 3 games ahead of Milwaukee. The teams that are currently your division leaders, the Phillies are still quite a bit away from the Mets. They're leading the East. So I think that's the kind of the funny thing. And I looked at this last week. If the playoffs were to end today, 3 of your National League playoff teams would all come from the East, being the Mets,
Right.
the Braves, and the Phillies. So that tells you that they're in a tough division. And I think the NL West isn't far behind because you have the Dodgers. Obviously, the Padres are in there for the wild card, and San Francisco's kind of, they're flirting around 500, but they're nipping on the heels there. They're only five out of a wild card spot. So,
Right.
and then you have the Washington Nationals, who are
25 games out of the
wild card spot.
wild card spot.
And
So I'm
not only 25 games of the wild card spot, they're also 36 out of the division. So
Jesus.
why have the mighty have fallen?
Yeah, right. Remember
Yeah.
when Jason Worth went there to win a World Series?
Ugh.
And he did.
Yeah.
And, but anyway. So yeah, man. I mean, it's looking, and I don't want to jinx anything, but it's looking like we might have a red October for the first time
Yeah. Yeah.
in a long time. And
Really, really hoping it, hey, even if it's just wild card, it's cool.
yeah,
You know, I always look back finally at 2020, yeah, 27, 2007,
right.
17 games back or excuse me, 17 games to play with 7 games back. And they took out the Mets. History can repeat itself, obviously. I think the Met, I've seen enough Mets baseball to know this year that they are not the same team they were in 2007.
No,
That is a ridiculously stacked lineup. Pitching is off the charts. Their bullpen is good. Look, I hate the Mets, but my God, I can also say that they're a pretty amazing team too. So that's going to be a tough one. My thing, this is what I kind of looked at this before. I, you know, I look at the wild card standings, and I was looking at this last week, and I think since they've, kind of, they nudged themselves into the head of the Central, because I think they flip flopped with Milwaukee. The freaking Cardinals, man, and maybe it's just because I get a full plate of it down here, but man, I don't want the Cardinals anywhere near the playoffs
no,
ever. I don't care if the Dodgers are in it with winning, they're going to, ridiculous. They're 80 and 34 right now. You've got the defending champion Braves are obviously in there. The Mets are ridiculous. I don't care. I want anyone else but the Cardinals. Cardinals are in, man. Dude, I don't know. It's just they're like lightning in a bottle all the time, and I hate it.
right. Oh man, that's the thing. They're a scary team. I still hold a grudge against them for knocking us out of the playoffs in what was that 2000? Was that 20?
2011.
Yeah.
I went to game 4 of the series there in St. Louis, and it was the game before. The game 5 was the one where Howard blew out his wheel,
Yep.
and don't get me wrong, that was nicest fans in the world. We had a great time at a playoff game, much different than my experience in Milwaukee, where
Yeah, I
we,
was gonna say better than when you went to the Brewers game.
the one sporting event I ever went to that almost died. It just amazes me how much of a dump Milwaukee is, and then how awesome St. Louis can be. It's amazing because they're
Well,
not that far apart geographically.
well, there's a reason that their team is based off of beer because there's nothing else to do in Milwaukee other than get drunk.
Yeah. Yep.
Are we gonna cut a heel promo against Milwaukee? Because I'm for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I have nothing nice to say about them. They did hook
Well,
us up. They did hook us up after the fact and gave us some free tickets and stuff, which was cool. And we got to sit in front of Bob Euchre, which was pretty awesome.
that's pretty cool.
But it was still Milwaukee, so
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, let's face it. The dumbest, most unattractive people in America live in Milwaukee, and it's reflected in their baseball team, and it's reflected in the way that their fans behave. People can talk shit on Philly all they want, but at the end of the day, if we actually went through and did genetic testing and intelligence testing, we'd find that the dumbest and most ugly people live in Milwaukee. And that's because they're all a bunch of inbreds. You know, when you just keep having fuck fugly, and have little fugly children that are dumber than bricks, that's what happens. You said the whole population of Milwaukee, it's like there was a wall built around the city and you can't get in or out. So you just gotta, make do with what's there. And what's there is not very good.
we
So,
just lost our 0 fans from Milwaukee.
oh fuck them. I was trying to cut, like I said, man, I wanted to cut a heel promo, so and I feel like that was pretty tame as far as heel work goes. So
Oh man. Okay, so no, speaking of sports here, you launched our fantasy football league, which is going to be a recurring theme here,
yes,
um, as the pod moves forward. Now we're not in football season yet, but this kind of
close
a
enough.
little bit more of a teaser. So, what's your take here with the league we've launched here, or you've launched, and then I kind of you know jumped
So
off the coattails.
ideally, what I'd like to do is I'd like to do our draft live and see how many people we can get to commit to that. to being on, and then it could be an episode. Because I don't know if anybody else would find that amusing or funny, but I feel like it would be a good way to get everybody introduced is to do a video and like do a video version. We can throw it on YouTube, and not only it's getting us, everybody can see each other and we can talk shit and we can do some heel promo work because that's what we're good at. And we can stir up some animosity to get the competitive juices flowing, and we can talk about how like Richie sucks because Harley Quinn Smith is going to pick his entire team. Not that he knows shit about football anyway.
That better be his team name, by the way.
What Harley Quinn Smith ate my balls?
Well, it can't be ate my balls because you can't use the word bonk.
Well, I'll figure out. Listen, I'm going to figure out. Matter of fact, I'm going to go to his team and I'm going to change his team name. Because I believe I can do that through the manager tools.
Just put a 0 where the A is.
Let's see. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm gonna. You know what? I'm gonna fucking change his. Is it gonna let me change his team name? Son of a bitch! It's not gonna let me change his team name.
Man.
Well, I'm gonna figure out a way to. But yeah, so we're gonna. So basically, what we're gonna do is we wanted this to be a for fun league for people that have played and people that haven't played, and we're gonna figure out some kind of handicap thing where I think for people who like you and I have played for years, like. We had my league for how many fucking years we played. We've played in leagues together. Other, some of your colleagues have had leagues that we've played in. We've got John Reebok, which he was an original.
Yep.
So I'm fucking stoked about that. So we're gonna do this stuff. I'm gonna give a shout out to Gab because she's joining and she makes the best fucking cheesesteaks in South Florida. She's in. So we're gonna run this shit back and we're gonna see how things go, and we're gonna but it's gonna be fun, man. We're gonna do this. Vinny joined, so he's
Sammy's in there. Excited about that.
In. Aaron's in. Maria's in. Who you met when you were down here? I believe her fiance Justin is gonna be in it too, or they may team up. Danielle's gonna be in. She's gonna whoop all of our asses, but we seem like we've got a good mix of new and old as far as people who are experienced players and people who have never played. And so the whole goal is to make it fun for all of us. And one of the ways that I wanted to do that is try to incorporate it into the podcast. And not only will that make it more fun, at least, I mean, for me, I'm assuming for you, but we can then have some captive listeners, because if they want updates on their teams and everything, they're going to have to listen to the podcast. See?
Yeah. See, and it's it's funny going back years and years, and I know people still do this, but you would run your league, and not that this would do all the time, but there would occasionally be write-ups after the week. I know you would do it, and then we would talk some smack through the message board and stuff, and people still do that, obviously, but we can talk smack through here. Right. Which makes it even better, right. Because inevitably something's going to be said that is going to either be deleted or end up on a shirt. So,
right. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's going to be something that's going to piss somebody off. It's going to end up on it's going to end up a website. It's going to end up on a t-shirt, or we'll have to cut it because it'll be inappropriate.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is, it's 50-50,
50-50. We're going to do Rick Steiner math.
Or, Scott Steiner math. Yeah.
Scott Steiner math.
50% this, 2/3% that, 100% this. Yeah. All steroids all day long.
Maybe 75%. Maybe that's the name of my team now, because I have it as my team right now is I went with my original football team name, which was Damage Inc., which is when I ran the Atkinson Football League way back in the day. It was Damage Inc., named after the song Damage Incorporated from Master of Puppets.
Oh, okay, I thought it was Smash Brothers. Man,
Smash Brothers.
I screwed my own joke. I was going to say Smash Mouth.
See, now you need to get smashed in the mouth. But I'll leave that to Danielle. Anyway, but I've changed it to in tribute of Eddie Munson. We have now become Munson's Marauders, but I may have to change it to Scott Steiner math.
Yes, yes, yeah. No, I'm Radix Bonk, but Bonk with a zero, so I don't know how you say that.
I don't. How the fuck is Bonk
I don't
against?
know. That's the craziest thing. It's funny. And I actually meant to throw this on Twitter because I just thought it was so funny. But the word bonk apparently is against the naming protocols in ESPN fantasy leagues. I don't know why. Um, you know, there's a famous video game, Bonk's Revenge.
No,
Uh,
Bonk's Adventure, Bonk's Revenge, Super Bonk's Adventure, I
the
believe is what.
only thing I can figure, I mean, is it like in a different language? Does it mean something that's really bad?
I have to hope that it's not like because they're looking at it like, oh, it's a really immature word for sex.
Yeah,
Like,
which is
oh,
dumb. Which is
let's go
dumb.
bonk.
Yeah, which is dumb. I still don't, because even now it's not like it's a common,
Right.
common
Nobody's fucking
slang. It would
using that
be
as a euphemism for sex.
right. It was a bad, like, low end term when 20 years ago.
Right.
It's still a low end term now. I've never heard
I've
the youth
never
of today
heard it.
using the word bonk.
Right. I've never heard anybody say like what was it? Was it Road Trip? Where he goes, yeah, we boinked.
Yeah,
Like
it's
that's the only thing I can figure. Like
I don't know. My only guess is that we're going to end up finding out that in some language it means something really bad.
right.
And
It's like
my team names have been awful for 2 decades.
yeah, like in Russian, Radix Bonk means like something I don't even
Yeah,
want to go there, but
yeah,
like depraved sexual acts with like Buddha or something.
yeah. Something strange. Yeah, I don't know, but yeah, obviously went with that because it's pretty much the only team name I've ever used. Um, but it was cool to see, like, some of these other people join, as you already mentioned, talking about them. And I'm excited. It's cool to see Reebok in there because I know you ran your league for about 13 years or so, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And I know he was in it the entire time. So we haven't played fantasy football with him in almost 10 years,
Yeah.
which is really cool. So, with a lot of experience, but then, like you said, bringing in people that have no idea at all, but have fun with it. And I'll say this: we actually did last year at work a pick'em league, where we just, straight up just, pick the winners of the games. But the cool thing is you can still build a league with it, like a team, you have your team name and all that, and still have a league with it. And we did it with my office, and there's people up there like really never watched football, including my boss, like just not his deal. And yeah, I think he knows more about football now than I probably do. He really got into it, and we were talking about it again earlier yesterday actually. But it's really funny to see, like, people that, like, just kind of latch on, and I'm hoping that happens out of this, because especially if you really don't follow, you don't have a team, this can get pretty addictive pretty quick, wouldn't you
Oh yeah.
say?
Yeah. Dude, listen, when I figured so the first time I ever played fantasy football, it was one of the officers in Woodbury Police Department had a league, and my dad was playing it, and he thought it would be a good thing for me and him to do together. So I would go to the drafts, we would do the live in-person drafts, and this was back before the computer where like there were websites that would do this stuff for you. So there was one of the guys would sit there and actually go through the box scores of each game and add up all of the scores himself. And so like he did all this by hand. It was like this was true dedication to the sport.
Mhm.
And so we did that for a couple years. And then when I went away to college, you know, that was the first time that I was like, wait a second. I wonder if there's stuff like this that we can do online. So that's when I found that I could go online and go on Yahoo Sports, which is where we started our league. I go on Yahoo Sports and start a league. And I could just join random leagues. That first year that I figured that out, I think I was in 4 or 5 different leagues
Right.
just because I could. Because I'm like, holy crap, I can just absorb all of the football. Like I can just, and then it gives you like, because that year, that was 1999. That was the year that was McNabb's rookie year and Andy Reid's first year, and we were god awful. But it gave me something to root for besides the Eagles because the Eagles were terrible, and I was going to root for them. I will always root for my team, but it also gave me more than like it was a slog of a year. There were some exciting things because you had McNabb as a rookie, and that was the year that we beat the Cowboys on or around my birthday. It was the year that Michael Irvin got hurt and was laying on the turf, and everybody said, "Oh, we were cheering or booing or whatever because Michael Irvin got hurt." But it wasn't that. It was because Deion Sanders was doing like a fucking ring dance on the sideline like an idiot, and we were all like just yelling at him. But there wasn't a whole hell of a lot to be happy about as an Eagles fan that year, and this gave me something to be happy about as a football fan because I could see, oh well, hey, the Eagles suck and the Eagles lost today, but you know what? I had Fred Taylor and Mark Brunell on the Jags, and they destroyed, like they lit it up, and stuff like that. And it helps you learn the league, helps you learn the good players in the league. And granted, it's gotten to a point where fantasy can kind of inflate how good a player is and how
Right.
good their performance is because they're killing it in fantasy, but then the results on the field for the team aren't as good. And you can look at a guy, and not to talk shit, but you and I both saw this last year with Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
Where
no, yeah, exactly. He's a great case example of that.
Jalen Hurts was, full disclosure, he was my quarterback, and I won the league that you and I were in. I won it with Jalen Hurts as my quarterback, and he put up good numbers. But the problem was he put up good numbers, but it wasn't always translating into success for the Eagles. And so his numbers most of the time they weren't from the passing game, they were from the running game. And that's why he was so valuable. The only reason I won the league is because of Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, he's ridiculous. Yeah, and
Yeah.
of course, obviously that translated to,
But yeah, but you can see where, having played for as long as we have, you can see where certain players, there's always those players that are fantasy darlings that if you look at them from a purely football perspective and purely performance related on the field and how they affect their team, you're like, why do people like him? Why do people like that guy? And then you look at the fantasy numbers and you go, oh, okay, well that's why they think he's an all pro. But there may be 5 guys that are actually better players, but they don't fit,
yeah,
exactly.
And I think my thing, I was running into this as well. Like, my secrets in fantasy football, and I make no stake in hiding it. I always have been very tight end heavy, and I've done that on purpose. In your league, I did that for years. Antonio Gates, and and mainly because there's so few and far between of those superstars. But the things that I've run into a problem with beyond that is I look at guys that, if I were playing like Madden, which I don't, but if I were and I was doing a fantasy draft, I look at guys and I'm like, oh, I could turn that guy into a superstar. Well, obviously he's where he's at because of where he's at. He's not going to be anything. And that's where I run into it. And it's like, trying to catch lightning in a bottle, it works out sometimes, but you're really waiting for, unfortunately, I hate to say this, waiting for an injury. You're waiting for a trade. You're waiting for something big to happen, which 9 times out of 10 really doesn't happen. I run into that with a lot of the middle round guys that I grab. And then you end up just playing free agency. That's the only way I've ever made it as far as I have, is because I've just sat there and watched that like a hawk, because I draft poorly. I always have, then outside of Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison.
Yeah, that year was very special.
Yeah, I don't think I needed to start anyone else on my team.
No. Yeah. It was the one year you had the 2 of them, and that was just kind of like, all right, well, Tom won. But I mean, even what's cool too is with ESPN, which we're using ESPN. No, we're not being paid by ESPN. We're not. ESPN will probably be pissed off if they find out that we're using their website for our fucking podcast league. But what's cool is they give you a ranking on where they think you're going to finish at the end of the year based on your draft. And last year, I believe it had me as the last. They said that I was going to finish last in the league, and then I gave them the finger
Yeah,
and
yeah,
won the league.
yeah, yeah,
But I
yeah. I remember
know,
that you were either last or second to last. It was close.
yeah.
But yeah, no, it was cool. And there was a couple people in that league that had and if you remember correctly, the one team basically drafted all Buccaneers,
Hmm.
and he made it the playoffs.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I mean, that's the thing. Like,
he
you
probably would have
can,
won if Antonio Brown doesn't walk off the field.
right, right, and that's the thing. You can win that way. You can definitely win by. Oh, here we go. Here's the. I'm going to finish my thought, and then I'll go through the trends here. Um, but you can go through an entire season with if you just pick your favorites and that's just how you want to roll. And I've done that before because sometimes it's just fun to win with your guys and to lay it on line and say, you know what, if I'm going to win, I'm going to win with my people. Like I will never draft a Dallas Cowboy. There will never be a Dallas Cowboy on my team because fuck the Dallas Cowboys. But if the team you pick to like subscribe to ends up flaming out horribly in the playoffs, or I'm sorry, at towards the end of the year, or they have a major injury and then that cascades and then your players end up not getting it, you're going to be screwed. So it's
Right.
always best to diversify. And then you also want to make sure you're watching your bye weeks because you don't want to get a bunch of people at the same position on the same bye because you can have a loaded bench, be like, all right, well, when this person's out, I've got this person to step up and boom, boom, boom. But then you hit like week 8 and then all of a sudden your entire team's on a bye week.
Yeah.
And or God forbid you're in a playoff week and you're missing players that are on, you know. Um
The crazy thing too is that, and it's a and we're kind of giving away our trade secrets here, but it's a draft strategy is looking at where your players fall on bye weeks. You don't want to ever stack just one week. Just much like you don't. I mean, to me, I'm not saying that's the right or wrong thing to do because I've seen it go both ways. But try to diversify your team picks too.
yeah.
Um, the I think that the funny thing to me is watching how, and this I think is going to be so fun about this is trying to figure out some of the handicap rules, if you will, and trying to get that going with it is to just really level the playing field regardless of your experience and just having fun with it. I think people forget that they get all tied up with it and it's all or nothing because they're in it for some people, you and I know this, they play for thousands upon thousands of
Oh yeah.
dollars. And look, that's never been you or me. I think the most I've ever paid entry into anything was maybe 50 or $100, like maybe. And even then it's, obviously not frequent,
Right.
at most I'll do like $20.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not into it for a lot. I like doing it more for fun. Because bragging rights to me are priceless. So
Exactly. Well, see, and that's the thing too. Like, yeah, are we giving away some things? Yeah, but you know what? It's for fun, and if I can help people enjoy it more, that's more my goal with this than anything else. Because if we wanted to be competitive pricks and play in like a like a knockdown drag out, like it's $50 a team, then maybe I'm holding my cards a little bit closer to my chest. But my goal with this is to kind of reach out to people who haven't really played before, or to people that they're just looking for a good time and just want some kind of distraction. Because look, the world is fucked enough. All right.
yeah, just have some fun
Let's
with
have
it.
some fucking fun.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Fuck's sake.
have some fun with it. And look, you and I played fantasy everything over the years. Fantasy football by far is the best. And I'll say that fantasy baseball is what got me into it. In the first actual league I played in, I was 10. It was a mail through the mail thing through the sporting news. Yes, there was a thing called the mail and the sporting news, but it was, but it was a fill-in bubble sheet is what it was, and you did it
Yeah.
every month. That was the first league I played in, and you know, football is the best because it's week to week. Um, there's a limited number of games. It's easy to get your attention. It's a fun sport to watch, obviously, but it's the best. I don't get me wrong. I love the different aspects of other sports. Obviously, baseball is still my favorite, But as far as like entertainment value, always goes to football. Um, you know, I hate to say this, but fantasy hockey and fantasy basketball, I've got nothing for.
Yeah.
It's very limited. I don't know. Football just has better stats too.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, honestly, even as much as I love hockey, I get nothing out of fantasy hockey. I get nothing out of fantasy hockey. I've tried so many times to do fantasy baseball, and it's just the season's so long that I
mhm.
just lose interest. Um, football is perfect for, and I've done fantasy basketball too. And the problem is, I just don't, I know the basics of basketball. I don't know, the super ins and outs, so I'm not as knowledgeable on it, and it wasn't as fun to me. But football, just for whatever reason, hits that sweet spot, and it's fun.
Yeah,
It's
it really is. It's week to week, shorter season. Because I think when fantasy football rolls, you're talking what, you're not even the full season. You're basically, you
right.
lob off the last week or two, and that's it.
Yeah.
There's no preseason. I mean, you're talking maybe talking about 15, 16 games is
Right.
all. So
And that's
yeah,
the
hey,
thing too is, you've got to look at, like, as the season gets longer. It used to be a 17 game season, so you do the playoffs in week 15. The 15 would be the championship. So you're
right,
starting the playoffs week 11, week 12, because you're going to have player like superstars that are getting rested and stuff. Players that are getting rested to go into the playoffs. So it's really not that long of an investment of time. You could look at it once or twice a week and be good to go. You don't have to pour over it like, oh well, such and such, this pitcher was changing the rotation, this player's out, like in baseball and hockey and everything. It's easy, it's quick. Shoot, ESPN makes it so easy with their app, even though their app is kind of a little light on the features as far as for league managers when you're not using the actual desktop site. Um, but it's cool, man. It's fun.
yeah. Now, to kind of wrap up the fantasy football talk, have you ever done a postseason league?
I have not. I have not. I've only ever done regular season.
So the last 2 years I've done postseason league, and it's very interesting. Basically, you're not playing against anybody. You're with a bunch of, at least the way I was playing it, there was like 10 or 12 other teams. So you're all in the standings mode. So there's no head to head, and you draft your team. Uh, and there's no position limits. So I could draft 5 kickers, that sort of thing, and basically, you get points based off their performance in the playoffs. But if they get knocked out, that's it, and you just move on. Um, that's fun, but that's really hard.
Yeah,
um, yeah, I finished last the first time I did it, and I think third to last this last time. It's difficult. It really is, because you're trying to figure out, okay, who's going to last the longest, or who's going to put up like a stud performance in just one week and be enough to carry me, through four potential weeks of, it's fun, but it's really, really difficult. So that maybe that's something that we'll have to look at, is for more seasoned people
yeah, yeah. We'll
la-
look at that too.
later on. That's tough. I still haven't figured out the intricacies of that one. It's hard.
Yeah. So let's wrap up the football with this. Let's look at so I've got the draft results and where they thought the projections from where they thought we drafted to where it ended up.
Okay.
Uh, so here, this I found really interesting. So myself and Team Davis, who we were the two teams that played in the championship. They had
He,
Team
he was
Davis.
he was a Buccaneers guy, by the way.
Okay, so they had him projected to finish 10th based on his draft. He finished second.
Yeah.
They had me projected to finish ninth, and I finished in first.
And you won.
Yeah. All right. Mother of tackles, who finished in sixth place, they were projected at eighth. Danielle was projected to finish in seventh. She finished in eighth. Cucumber something or another, cucumber pickle juice, was projected to finish in sixth. They finished in ninth. You were projected to finish in fifth, and you finished in fifth.
Yeah, I like to, you know, I had to live up to that.
Yeah. But the only ones that were really close besides you, so you were projected fifth and finished in fifth. The team that finished in fourth was projected to finish in third. The team that finished in third was projected to finish second. And that was it. Everybody else, the team that was projected to finish in first, finished in seventh. So it just goes to show it's really, we can talk skill all we want and game plan and all this stuff, but at the end of the day, it's really luck. It really boils down to luck, people getting injured, that kind of stuff. Because I've had, you'll take a number one running back, and then the first thing, or how many times? All right, how about this? How many times have we been in a draft and somebody takes like a stud player, and then everybody in the room starts laughing because, oh, that person's suspended for the first one or two games, so that person's hurt. Because if you're not, you've got to read like it makes it easier if we all do it online because we can see the data in real time. It'll have a little mark. It'll say, hey, this person's out for however long.
Right.
But you've got to make sure that you're on top of that, because if you're if you're in the draft and you're not paying attention to that stuff, you can easily end up with people who are out. Or if you choose to do an auto draft and let the computer draft for you, and you don't go in and do your presets, your pre-rankings, you can be screwed.
Yeah, injured players, like you said, suspended players. Because the injured players generally, if they're out for the year, it's kind of gotten more intelligent now where it'll knock them off the list. Used to not do that, because I remember I've been in plenty of drafts where you'd have people on auto, and they'd pick like two or three guys that were out for the year, and it's like, because they wouldn't get picked. Other people would be there, and it would be like, oh, let's just get the next best player. I think that's getting a little bit more intelligent with that now. But then you have, like you said, players that are suspended for what, two to 6 games, 8 games, whatever. And it's, I always try to avoid those people anyway.
Yeah.
Just I don't want anything to do with them. But the I think that again, it adds an element of, hey, just be mindful of what's going on here.
Right.
Or the quarterback situation is always funny. In fact, so much so that you actually made a change back now, midway through our league, to team quarterbacks, which is interesting. It's that's a love or hate thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's one of those deals where, yeah, hey, I've got Tom Brady, I'm going all the way, and he gets hurt, and who else do you have? If you have team quarterbacks on, then you get the backup points as well. But if you don't,
And honestly, where it comes into play too is, so some of these teams, they'll get to a point where they're beating somebody by so much that they'll put the backup in, or a player gets hurt in the middle of a game. God forbid, you go out in the first drive, you've got Tom Brady, like you said, and Tom Brady gets hit below the knee, blows out his knee, he's gone for that game. Or we won't say he blows out his knee, but he's going to be out for the rest of that game, and then he'll be
right.
back the next week. But you were counting on him for that game, and now he got you a 0 because he got hurt on the very first drive. So now you've got a big fat 0 there for your quarterback, which is one of the most important positions on the
Yeah,
on
as
the
far
team.
as getting points, yeah, for
Right.
sure.
And so then in a situation where you have team quarterback, you're at least going to get something. You're not going to get Tom Brady production, more than likely, but you're going to get something. And like you said, it is a love or hate thing. Some people think it dumbs it down. Some people think it takes some of the skill away. But what was happening with our league was we were getting people that were just stockpiling quarterbacks.
Right.
So like you'd go to your quarterback gets hurt, and say you went light on quarterbacks in the draft, and you've got your backup is on a bye, and then you go to draft or you go to pick up a quarterback on the waivers, and there's nobody that's a starting quarterback, so you're forced to start a backup quarterback,
Which you're not getting
so
anything for anyway, yeah.
right, so you're not getting any points for them unless their quarterback their starter gets hurt and they go in, or something in that situation. So we said, you know what, screw it. team quarterback. Nobody can hoard quarterbacks. You can have 2 team quarterbacks on your team at a time, on your roster at a time, and we handled it that way. And that was kind of a carryover that I took from the Woodbury Police Department league that I was in, was they used team quarterbacks, and that's where I kind of took that from, because I really enjoyed it. That's how I learned to play. And it's very similar to how you handle defense. Now, I've played in leagues where you've actually had to draft individual defensive players too, which adds a whole nother wrinkle to the game.
Right.
Because that's so much harder to tell, like, who's going to be a point, like who's going to be scoring points for you, because it's all based on tackles and sacks and stuff like that. And it's much harder to predict tackle numbers and sack numbers than it is to predict, offensive performance. So I would say we're more than likely, I'm not even going to say we're more than likely, we are going to use team defense.
Yeah,
Special
that's
teams.
yeah,
So
especially since we have a bunch of people that potentially have never touched it before. That's yeah, I've never even played with singular defensive players for that reason.
right.
That's just it's too complex. And I love fantasy football, but I just just not doing it, because
Right.
there's, like you said, it's you have your Aaron Donalds of the world, but that's about it.
Right.
There's no
Yeah.
guarantees really. It's really, as for lack of a better word, it's really hit or miss.
Right. And Aaron Donald is, one bad snap away from being out for the season. So,
Yeah.
And not ever, like, we know defensive players because we watch the game, we watch the league and everything. But especially doing a league for people who are just trying to have fun and haven't, aren't as immersed in it as we are, because we're fucking crackheads. Um, it wouldn't be helpful to them now. But that brings up a good point, because I wasn't even thinking about that. But do we bring back the team quarterback for this league? Is that
I
something
think
we vote on?
I mean, it certainly wouldn't hurt to put it out there for a vote, but my eyes, is just my take on it. It's one position I think people actually recognize names. So
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think we leave it alone. That's just my idea.
So the other thing is, so far I've put up the poll on the site to whether we're going to do like a let the computer randomize a draft, or if we do a lottery to do the draft selections. If we do the lottery, I think we need to broadcast it live.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And not only that, but I think that's kind of where that's one of the ways we can handicap the league in favor of the inexperienced players, is we can do it like a true lottery, where for the first round, you and I would have like our name in the hat once.
Once, yeah, like the
And
NBA
then,
does.
right. And we could do it like that. And that could be a way to kind of tilt the league in one way or the other. Now, of course, I say that, and then who's going to get the first pick. It's going to be one
No,
of us,
of course, yeah, yeah,
because we're cheating, because
yeah,
we
yep,
need that ego boost.
yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
in fact, it'd probably end up being like 1 and 2.
Right. We would get 1 and 2, and then like the person with like their name in there 10 times would get the last pick. And which, so far, I set the league up for 20 teams because I didn't know what the buy-in would be, but so far it's looking like I think we're full.
Yeah,
We're considering a second league at this point, depending upon how, and we may have to break it down, like, because I think, I don't know. We forgot to mention Bink.
yeah,
Friend of the
I
show,
know.
Bink, is going to
He's been
be,
on the show several times, and
yeah, and we just shafted him. We were like, yeah, fuck that guy. We're not going to mention him. We mentioned everybody else, but not him. But yeah, man. So we might end up, maybe we end up having to do 2 leagues, and then if we could, we would have to do it ourselves, but maybe we could figure out a way to do like an inter promotional champion.
yeah, I don't know how that would work. Yeah, I don't know.
We would have to add it ourselves.
That's a good point. Yeah, I guess you kind of threw it on
But
Thanks.
we could do that. Like they could win the Do You Like Bears championship
Yeah, yeah,
or the Harambe Pox championship.
yeah. I like it. I like
What
it.
will
It's
we
like
name the two different promotions though?
one of them's got to be like something with chupacabras. Got to be.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Chupacabra for dicks.
maybe the author of that book.
How fucking cool would it be if we get him in the league? The Chupacabra Championship.
Yeah,
North American Chupacabra Championship.
I mean, this rolls off the tongue.
Chupa Championship?
Exactly. Yeah, I kind of like the North American Chupacabra Championship.
There
I
we
like
go. And then we could do like the Intercontinental Mothman.
that. Ooh, I
No.
like it.
No.
Yeah,
We could do the because how are we gonna shit on the Jersey Devil and not include him?
that's a good point. That could be like the Super Bowl.
The Leeds we could Leeds Point Football League.
I like it. I like it.
Except for we already named the fucking
Yeah, that's true. We don't want to like rename it.
yeah,
I'd say that'd be like the name of the Super Bowl, something like that.
like the Leeds Point
Well, that or
Bowl.
something with Jersey Devil in it.
Let's see. I don't know. What to figure it out. We'll have
Yeah,
to figure it out. But it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be interesting.
yeah, definitely.
Speaking of cryptids and the Jersey Devil and such, the newest news today. This was a good segue.
Yeah, so this will be something we can definitely record with Richie on this one, but we'll this will be our teaser
Yeah, we'll give you a
bonus.
teaser.
Yeah,
Extra
you broke the news through a Facebook thing. Why don't you go at it?
Yeah, so um the good lads at Weird New Jersey are getting a TV show, and it's going to be like a horror thriller TV show about Weird New Jersey and all the weird shit that goes on. So, for those of you who don't know, Weird New Jersey is an actual publication. It started off as a newsletter in 1989. It's published bi-yearly, so twice yearly. I don't know the correct fucking way to say that because I really don't give a shit. Um, biannually, I guess would be the correct. that, come on, I'm dying here.
Or semi-annually?
Semi-annually, I don't know, whatever the fuck it is. They do it twice a year, so more than I have sex. They publish twice a year, and it's grown from a newsletter to a magazine. It's got a website. They've got books. They've done I know at least Weird New Jersey books, volume 1 and 2. They've done Weird US. They've done I think every state now. Weird.
Yeah, there's
Insert
they have different
here.
states have done books on. Yeah, you say they've done a magazine since 1992, a couple times a year. Yeah, no, they've got everything out there.
And and now they're going to have their own show.
Yeah,
So I'm super excited about it. Tom, I know you're excited about it, and we'll have to when Richie's on the next episode. We're gonna try and do a little in-depth
yeah,
deep
we'll
dive
dive into
to.
some of these weird stories. My here's my take. See what you think on it. Because there's a couple websites out there. Obviously, there's a Weird US and a Weird NJ site. Obviously, the Weird NJ site is quite a bit more expansive because that's obviously where this all started. But there's stories littered all over the place on those. I think we can do like almost like the Reddit deals where we were just kind of combing through it because there's some really good ones on
Yeah,
there, like the roadkill cook-off and stuff like that. So
yeah.
yeah, I think we can really kind of have some fun with that, and it kind of leads into some of the cryptid stuff again that we like to talk about here. So um, yeah, and it just obviously won't just be stuff like that. It'll just be kind of the weird and the odd, and yeah, I'd love to. Yeah,
Because we
love to.
ourselves are weird and odd.
Exactly. That's why we do this.
Matter of fact,
But
that was going to be when we were starting to think about this podcast. We were thinking about not using our names and just calling ourselves. One of us would be weird and one of us would be odd. But we just figured that was too on the nose. So
yeah, But hey, we knocked out an hour on Phillies and fantasy football though. So
yeah, I think that was good. I'm gonna go take the dog for a walk, and that's not a euphemism for anything. Meanwhile, Richie is still probably tied to a bed, getting whipped by Harley Quinn Smith.
Yeah.
Wait, before we go, I want to, because he's not here to shit on it. I need to say this. So, we've been talking about Clerks 3 and how excited he is to see it. And they're doing the limited release. They have sold out so many of them that they had to expand the showings. So it's actually getting more time in the theater because it sold so well.
Good.
So, yeah. So
I
I'm
was going to
looking
say
forward.
this is where he would make the joke of, oh, so now it's in 3 theaters instead of 2.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 tickets, not to Paradise Friends, but to go see Clerks 3. So I will be in the theater for one of them.
When is that? When does that hit again?
I believe September 13th is when I had my showing, or is when I had my tickets for.
Cool. Now, do you know? Now, and again, because I'll be honest, I haven't been following release. Is there a post like release for streaming or DVD or Blu-ray, whatever?
Not that I've seen yet, but I'm sure it'll be much like Reboot, where they get to it fairly quickly. I know I bought Reboot in Target on Blu-ray, like just randomly. I went in one day and it was there. So let me look it up though. Let's see. Let's check out when the streaming. Uh,
Yeah, I haven't really kept up, so I definitely excited to see it. But obviously, it's not going to sniff anywhere near here. So,
yeah, so let's see. So it's not. Why? Of course, this doesn't say. All right, let's see. Collider. Collider might have it. Clerks is back. Okay, it's got now. See, it's not telling me shit. All it's telling me is all the stuff that I. So they are releasing it in theaters, but yeah, it doesn't say anything about any kind of streaming or when or any of that stuff. So unfortunately, I don't have that information. But like I said, I know that I will be in the theater to see it. It is, yeah, September 13th is when it shows up in theaters. And I think it's the 13th and the 15th are the two days that originally had been announced, and then they're going to do an extended release where I don't know any of the details about that. I just know that it had been selling out, so they've decided that they're going to do a little bit more broad release.
yeah, it was funny. I actually typed in my zip just to see the closest, and the 3 theaters that it's closest are all about an hour and a half away.
Which the movie's an hour and 40 minutes, so just a little bit less than the runtime of the movie to go see it. I don't know. I mean, I love Kevin Smith, but I don't know that I'd be making that trek.
Yeah, no, that's the one unfortunate thing. But oh well, it is what it is. But all right, man, you want to shut us down here?
Yeah, until next time, we hip in the Noise Brigade. Check us out on noisebrigadepod.com. Did I fuck that up again? Is it
No, that's
noisebrigadepod.com?
right. Yeah.
Oh, I
Good job.
actually got it right the first time. Imagine that. BigBeefyShootyBoys.com, DoubleWideCoffin.com, Do You Like Bears.com, ChupacabraForDicks.com, AlwaysBeChupacabra.com, HarambePox.com, and HarleyQuinnSmith8MyBalls.com. And of course on Twitter and on Facebook.